유독 넌 재수가 없는 것 같아. 그만하자. 부탁이다. 싫은데.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here with me today. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Weak Hero Class 1. The second season is going to drop this Friday, and obviously this is the time to know what happened in the first season and why it's so important, and I'm super excited to share it because I watched it last weekend, and it was freaking incredible. I watched it in one sitting. It was so good. And if you haven't watched it, you should so watch it. So the series starts with Yeon-seon, who is a very model student, and he always gets really good grades. He's in the top 1% of his class, and if you know anything about Korean schools, you know that is a very big deal. He's won multiple awards, multiple accolades, so he's up there. He's always first place for everything. That's all he does. All he does is study. That is it. He doesn't have any friends, and that's a really big thing for him. He doesn't want friends. He doesn't have friends, and his family is also dispersed in other places. His mom left and they've separated for a while, and then his dad, who is the one that's taking care of him but is almost always gone for some sort of coaching session or of some sort. He just is extremely lonely, and that's where the series starts. So he's super diligent, is always first. Unfortunately, that means that there's another person that is always second, or in his case, third. Yongbin, this little brat of a person. He is born with a silver spoon, has everything that he wants, and naturally he wants more. So he hates that he's never the first person. So naturally he decides to start in his epic proportion to bully Yeon-seon, and decides that this is the person that I'm going to bully throughout the whole time. It starts off with him trying to bully Yeon-seon. One day he decides to put a fentanyl pack on Cheon because naturally he's like, well, because he thinks that if he puts the fentanyl pack on this guy, he puts a little like sticker thing on here on his neck, that'll make it so he'll feel sleepy. He won't overdose or anything, but he'll feel super sleepy and tired and won't be able to give his exam. And this exam was like one of the biggest mock exams in the school that'll kind of decide your fate for the most part. He naturally decides he's not going to do it himself. He is going to get somebody else to do it for him, and enters this new student at their school. His name is Byung-suk, and he will become super important later on. Byung-suk was super bullied in his previous school, and he transferred to this new school saying that, okay, well, maybe this will be a new start. His father is very well known, so he's like, look, it's fine, we can start a new school. And then freaking Yongbin decides to investigate what happened with him. So he learns that this guy was super bullied, doesn't have the greatest reputation, so he blackmails him into saying, look, I'll do you a favor. I won't tell anyone if you put this small, tiny fentanyl pack. He doesn't know, Yongbin doesn't know that Byung-suk doesn't know that it's a fentanyl pack. He just knows that it's not a good idea. So he puts this on Yeon-seon, and Yeon-seon at this time is like very confused. He's just like, oh, I just saw a little ant or something on a little bug on your neck. And he's like, whatever. And then, but he's in this exam, he starts to feel really weird, starts to feel very dizzy and uncomfortable, and wants to throw up. So he realizes that someone did something, and he reaches back to his neck and finds the little pack, and he immediately knows who could be at fault. He doesn't think it's Byung-suk. He knows it's Yongbin. And once he starts to feel a little better, naturally he sees that he did not do well in the exam. They're going through the corrections. He's missed almost all of the questions. And for someone like him who is so diligent about his studies, that is the way to break him. And that was kind of the idea that Yongbin had. And he goes, and this scene is just so freaking crazy and epic. This is where you see how a little unhinged Yeon-seon is, where he takes a book and remembers the Newton's law with energy exerted, wraps Yongbin, this little shithead, in a curtain and beats the shit out of him with a book. Like, all you see, you don't see his face, all you see is him wrapped in a curtain and Shion just beating the shit out of him. And that is where the first episode ends until enters our favorite, everyone's favorite, Seo, who is an amazing fighter, but he hates school, he hates studying, he's always in the back, just sleeping all the time. And he enters, he's like, look, man, I get it, what you're doing, but you cannot kill him. You have to stop now. You have to learn when to stop. And that's when they finally, like, first initially meet. Seoho is introduced to us in a different manner where he's a great fighter. He's a great MMA fighter. But unfortunately he had to quit for one reason or another. But you see Seoho and that his like MMA fighting, and then compared that to Yeon Sehun, who doesn't really fight, but all he has is this ball of rage and energy, and it's really cool to see. He doesn't stand a chance against Seoho, but it's still really nice to watch. And that's when that's the beginning of the friendship between these two. The next thing you see is Shion has a very big reputation now in the school, and everybody is trying to be like, "Ooh, he's kind of cool. He's cool." And Shion's just like, "Leave me the hell alone. I want nothing to do with any of you guys. I'm just here to study. I want to get the hell out of here. I'm done." That just makes Yongbin, the bully, try that much harder. At this time, though, Yongbin is at the hospital, and his mother eventually finds out that her son was the one that gave the fentanyl, and she's like, well, this is ridiculous. I can't understand why you would do this. She's just extremely upset with Yongbin, which makes him that much annoyed with Shion. This eventually makes it so that Yongbin does transfer to a different school, but he's just extremely upset and super angry at Shion. At this time when he's gone, we also have Mr. Byung-suk, who is super remorseful and is like, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm so sorry that I did this. I apologize. And Shion's like, whatever, man. Just let it go. I don't care. He just goes his own way, and he's trying to be, whereas Byung-suk really wants to be friends with him and hopes that eventually they will be friends, because he's super he thinks Seon's really cool because he's basically the person that he was in his previous school, but he never was able to stand up to his bullies like Seon was, so he definitely wants that connection with him. And then at this time, Soya is also kind of impressed by Seon, but also he wants to take him under his wing. I love the chemistry between the two. They're really adorable and sweet. So going back to Yongbin, he's upset and very angry that he has to switch schools and everything. So he decides that I'm going to hire somebody, pay someone to beat the shit out of Seon, because he couldn't do it. So he's going to hire somebody else, and enters our leader of delinquents, basically, Jeon Seok-dae. He is actually a sweetheart. That's what you find out a little later. But he decides that, okay, well, I need money and this idiot is willing to pay it. So I'm going to take this and try. And he's like, look, no hard feelings, all right? Let's go. So agrees to beat up Seon to teach him a lesson, basically. Unfortunately, when he decides to corner him and his posse, kind of corner Seon and take him to a different area, Byung-suk sees this and decides, holy shit, oh my god, I need to help. Unfortunately for Seon, Byung-suk is not a fighter, as you can tell. I know people can be very scrappy. He is not one of them, in that way at least. Who does he go to? He goes to our favorite guy, Soha. Soha is like, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean they took him? He's like, get on, let's go. So they both are trying to find Seon to rescue him. Seon is doing his best trying to get these people away from him. Unfortunately, he's not doing a great job. There's way too many of them, and his expertise just stops apparently at, he's not angry enough to take care of all of this. So in comes Soha, who is there to save him. And Soha and our lovely baby gangster leader go head to head, and as you can expect, Soha wins because look, he's great, he's wonderful, and he's like, look, I get the hell away from my friend. You're gonna have to just back up. On the other side, while Soha and the leader are fighting, Yongbin has Seon cornered with multiple people, and he's about to crash a bottle of soju on his head. In walks who? Byung-suk. He's like, okay, well, this is my time to shine. So he stops and hits Byung-suk and is able to help save Seon and Soha. And that's where their friendship starts. So this is the end of the first kind of like takedown of the big boss. There's 3 total. You'll see the 3 segments. So that's the end of the first segment. And the second segment is when it goes back to Seokdae, when he goes back to his leader, the one who is responsible for him and his siblings, or siblings and friends and leaders basically. His name is Gilso. Gilso is a very, very bad person. He kills for money, basically takes kids in, turns them into drug addicts so they can traffic for him or sell drugs to other kids for him, runs a gambling den. Basically, you know, think of all the bad things you can imagine in a K-drama. He's the main guy for that. He sees that one of his best leaders was hurt and defeated by this guy, and then you see him basically throw this giant guy across the room in rage, basically saying, how could you be defeated by this guy? And then the next thing you see is him going to the 3 kids, Seon, Soha, and Byung-suk, and saying, hey, look what you did to my guy. You will come in 3 days with 15 million won, or I'm going to take this to the police and then you'll have to settle it with them. Naturally, they're like, we didn't do anything. This has nothing to do with us. What are you talking about? We didn't do anything to him. He got hurt somehow. We didn't do this. Unfortunately, obviously, he's not going to listen. He's not there for reasonable things. He wants the money. And 3 days goes by. They're being basically harassed by all of his members. They're in front of their houses, in front of the places they work. It's just not looking good. And then enters Sehun. At this time finds out that, okay, even if we give him the money, he's not going to leave us alone. So there's just really no point. So we have to go to the police. He finds evidence against this guy and is like, okay, well, we have to go to the police. That's the only way. Unfortunately, by the end of at this time though, let me back up a minute. At this time, Byung-suk's like, well, you know, maybe we'll just give him the money, 15 million for his family. Yes, it is large, but it's not that much. So he goes and steals his father's watch, and he's like, and he pawns it for 15 million won. Those of you who don't know what 15 million won is, let's see, 2 USD. It's about 10,500. So like $10,000 to $11,000. Quite a bit of money for a teenager, or just in general. He decides, okay, well, I'll pawn off my father's watch. It's going to be mine anyway. That's how he explains it to his friends. It's going to be mine anyway. So he pawns it, and he's like, look, let's take this money and pay him off so we can be done with him. Unfortunately, Seo's like, well, he's not going to leave us alone even if we give him the money. He had talked to one of the girls that was part of the gang. He's like, what happens? He tries to find out what this bully does, this huge bully does. to find out a solution so that they can be away from him without having to pay. And she's able to get some information on him, which is basically he runs a gambling den. She finds papers for loans from him, and finds a lot of evidence for him, sends it to him, and Seon's like, okay, well, we'll go to the police. And by the end of the third day, though, they're on him. They're like, okay, well, what do we do? So Soha's like, okay, look, because it's the end of the day, I'll go with them and try to distract them and try to get the address where this is. That way you guys can come and bring the police and distract them and make sure that, you help me. So they decide to do that. Unfortunately, Byung-seok doesn't like that. He's like, we can't just let him go. By this time, Soha's gone. They've taken him. And Soha's like, okay, well, let me go talk to this guy and it's fine. I'm going to try to convince him to work with us and find a better solution. Byung-seok takes a taxi and tries to go follow the other car. And on the other hand, Seon goes to the police and he's like, look, I have all of this evidence. Let's go find him. So unfortunately, by the time they get to the building, the leader figures out what they're doing because he sees his cell phone and is like, shit. So they're basically on to him. They take Soha and Byung-seok both to a different location. And by the time that Seon and the police officers are there, there's no one there. No one's answering the phone. The police officer's like, look, we need more evidence to do something. Like, if you have more evidence, we'll come here. This isn't even our jurisdiction as it is. So we'll think about it. Naturally. At this time, though, Seokdae, the leader, the smaller leader, the kinder one, decides to take advantage of the situation. He's like, look, we have to find a way to get away from them. And then he involves also Yoongi, who is the female that was helping Seon. So they band together and Seokdae's like, look, you stay here, I'll go. And she's like, I'm not going. That's not happening. So Yoongi contacts Seon. She's like, hey, follow my location. I'm going to go with Seokdae. He knows where they're going. The second location is. So she follows him and then Seon follows her. He comes there and sees what's happening, and is able to distract them by calling the police, but also be able to find a way to fight this horrible bully, basically. Eventually everything goes well. So Soha and Seon are able to fight Gilso together and take him down, and the police comes in just in time to take everyone. At this time, Seokdae and Yoongi run away, and they're hoping that they'll be able to get away because they're delinquents. They can't go home. They can't go to the police, so they feel like they have to find their own way. Unfortunately, Seokdae does get arrested, and Gilso and him and all of the other little people end up going to jail. Yoongi goes with Seon and is able to house with Soha at this time so she can build her life together. The police asks all these three kids to come and give a statement. The next thing you see is Byung-seok asking the prosecutor or somebody who he's close with, like, just let us go, please. And that's when you find out that Byung-seok's father is the National Assemblyman. So he's very powerful, doesn't want his name involved with any of the issues, and he's just like, okay, we'll let him go. They clear everyone's name, so they're okay to go back. But on the other hand, this is the time you realize that Byung-seok's father, while he might be a very prominent guy, he's also a very cruel and prideful person. He beats up Byung-seok really badly. He's horrible and doesn't like him at all. He was adopted just so that the assemblyman could look good. And this ends the second part of this trajectory. The third part is Byung-seok and how others are involved. So Byung-seok is finally having friends. He's super happy that he's super popular as well. He's never had that popularity before, and it really gets to him. And he really likes Soha. And when Yoongi comes in, he starts to feel very cagey and very upset that Soha is not being attentive towards him. It doesn't really like him as much as he likes him. He feels like he's the left out. He has a huge fear of missing out. And it just isn't working for him. So he decides that he is going to go to get more friends. And he decides like, okay, you know what? Screw that. If you don't like me as much as I like you, which is not true at all. This is just the way Soha is. Then I will find different friends. He ends up being in a different crowd. So remember those bullies that Yongbin was a part of? All those little minions? He becomes kind of almost their leader and decides that these are my people. They're taking full advantage of him. He has a lot of money. He's paying for drinks. He's paying for shoes. He's paying for like clothes. He uses his money to get the things he wants. On the other hand, Seon's like, hey, don't do that. Like, what's going on with you? Why aren't you talking to us? Because at this time, he's ignoring Soha and Seon, and doesn't want anything to do with them. He's like, whatever, it's a fine, you know, I have different friends now. He doesn't really like them as much as he likes the other Soha and Seon. He just still feels like he's prideful and very hurt because they don't love him as much as he loves them. It's a very weird story in that way, but very like connective fear of like abandonment, fear of not being liked enough and not having the similar level of friendship. For example, he gets super upset with Soha and Seon and Yoongi when Yoongi and Seon meet Soha in the hospital. It wasn't even planned. They just ended up showing up and they were like, oh, how are you doing? Because Soha wasn't doing so great. He had like his arm was broken, his right leg was broken. He was in a hospital for various reasons. So they decide to just show up and, you know, comfort him. And Yoongi posts some of the pictures online and Instagram, and Byung-suk sees this and he's like, shit, they're hanging out without me. They must not care about me as much as I care about them. And that kind of starts that trajectory of like, not so great. Around this time is the time when Byung-suk also runs into the previous bullies he had from his previous school. And he's like, he kind of just gets into this mindset and isn't doing so great. And Soha's like, look, he tells them what's going on. So Seon asks him like, what's going on, dude? And Byung-suk tells them both that, hey, this is what happened. And Soha's like, come on, we're going to get you an apology from them. So they go to this karaoke bar that they're hanging out in, and Soha makes the other guys apologize to him. And he's like, okay, well, fair is fair. You guys hit him a lot. So Byung-suk, you can hit him once. If it's a sincere apologies, you should be able to take it like a man. You can hit him once. And he hits him and wants to continue to hit him. And so I was like, no, this is where we end. You can stop now. And Byung-suk gets super angry. He's like, stop ordering me around. Stop telling me what to do. I am not your lackey. And so I was like, what are you talking about? I've never treated you like a lackey. What the hell are you talking about? So they get into an argument. Byung-suk storms off. Soha's like, I don't know what just happened. And Cheon and Soha leave. And at this time, this is the turning point for Byung-suk, where he starts hanging out with a lot of the very nefarious guys in his school, the ones that are basically using him, and he's using them too. Seon at this time is very like anxious and is very worried about this weird dynamic between Byung-suk and the other people. He's like, you know, you're my friend. You're not like this, guys. I know that. You're better. And Soha's like, look, you tried talking to him. Let's face it, he used us to he liked being popular. That's why he liked hanging out with us. Now he wants to use his money to be friends with them and be able to order them around. So I was like, this is just what happened. It's fine, whatever. Soha seems a little upset, but he's not like heartbroken like Seon is. At this time, Seon thinks that Byung-suk is just rebelling because he's lonely. He doesn't feel like he's connected. And Soha is like, look, you've done enough. There's nothing you can do anymore. And then the next part is when at this time, Byung-suk is super upset and he's like, you know what? Do you know anyone who can beat up Soha? Because like, he needs to learn a lesson. And Byung-suk is introduced to the person they call the physical therapist. He's a huge MMA fighter, has won multiple competitions and wants to make a name for himself. And he announces it to his YouTube channel that he is going to beat up this guy, this really prominent guy. Just a reminder, at some point in like middle or high school, Suha and this physical therapist guy had at some point had a match, and Soha had beat him, like just crushed him. So keep that in mind. So he has his own vendetta against Soha. So things move on, and Soha and Yoongi plan a birthday party for Soha. And on his birthday party, they're like, hey, come on, let's go, you know? So they rent a party room and invite Soha, and they're waiting for him. At this point, Yoongi gets a message from Byung-suk like, hey, I have Soha's present. Can you come out and grab it? Meet me here. So don't tell Soha or Seon. And in her mature decision, she decides to go see him. And lo and behold, he obviously tells her, yeah, no, I have nothing to apologize for. I'm not going to apologize. Let's see what happens now. And at this time, they take her to like this garage area or abandoned parking lot area. And all of Youngbin and his like minions are there. So are his the MMA fighter as well. Youngbin and then Byung-suk then messages Soha, and at this time Soha and Seon are both at their party waiting for Youngmi to come back, and so they can celebrate and everything. Seon sees these messages and is like, okay, shit, I have to obviously help, but I can't get Soha to see this because he's gonna go crazy. Like, he will probably kill Byung-suk. So he deletes the messages, turns off Soha's phone, and he's like, hey, I'll be back. Just give me a second, okay? So he leaves. I'm gonna go to the store. I'll be back. So he ends up meeting Byung-suk in this parking lot and realizes that Youngbin is there, and so are all the other people. And Youngbin obviously has a vendetta against him. And at this time, everyone beats up Seon. And Seon's like, and Byung-suk's like, look, we want nothing. No, this is not how it's supposed to go. You are supposed to beat up Soha. It's not about this guy. He still has feelings, positive feelings about Seon because, you know, they were somewhat friends and he was nice to him. But then Youngbin's like, well, we were your friends. This is what happens. You brought him here. He's my enemy too. What are we? You're not your friends anymore. So at this time, Byung-suk, the coward that he is, walks away. And all of the friends beat the shit out of Seon. Basically, like, he's very upset, he's just bleeding from head to toe. It's a very violent show, if you haven't picked that up yet. They beat him up. Thankfully, Yoongi is able to get him to the hospital in time, and they leave him alone. And then the physical therapist from YouTube is like, look, hey, I owe you one. You know, I've already announced it on my YouTube channel, so let's see what happens next, and we'll figure this out. So, you know, we'll arrange that match again. Seon, when he's in the hospital, asks Yoongi not to tell Soha because he thinks like Soha's just gonna kill them all. He's going to be very upset. He just doesn't want him to fight. I love how protective he is of Soha. It's really nice to see. When Sion doesn't show up to school for days, Sion's like, Soha's like, what the hell is going on? I don't understand why you're not here. And Sion's not answering his messages, nothing. And eventually he finds out what happened. And then he obviously goes to Byung-sok and is like, what the he confronts Byung-sok and just goes after all of the guys and is like, you tell me where this guy is or I'm going to kill all of them. You're going to have to tell me where he is, where I can find him. Eventually, he goes to the MMA fighting ring. At this time, when Soha reaches the ring, he realizes that the physical therapist is there. And he decides like, all right, you know what? Let me warm up a little. So he beats the shit out of the other guys and he's like, oh, all right, I'm warmed up now. Let's go. They both get into the ring and you can tell that the other guy is definitely a lot knowledgeable and has been practicing for a very long time, but somehow still Soha is able to kick his ass. Unfortunately, while they're fighting, one of the other guys decides to trip Soha. And he goes down and the other guys are helping this physical therapist basically beat the shit out of him. When he's down and done, he's still moving at this time. All the other boys join in. Byung-sok goes into the ring. He's still moving at this time. Byung-sok goes into the ring and kicks him and continues to kick him and kick him and kick him and kick him. And that's when the other kids join in again and they just continue to kick him, and just hurt him all over. To a point eventually they realize he's not moving, he's not breathing. They see that and finally... At this time, Byung-sok's father's lackey basically sees him and finds them and calls the police and is like, oh, wait, shit, this is what you're going to tell everyone. There was an accident and they were practicing and he went away on the other side and then never woke up. So naturally, he ends up in the fucking hospital because this asshole decided that he couldn't get over his own shit. So he ends up in the hospital. At this time, you're thinking he's dead. Thankfully, he is not dead. He is in a coma at this point, and we don't know if he'll ever wake up because, well, it's fucking awful. And then Sion finds this out and goes on a rampage, basically. He beats everyone up that is involved with this guy and finds the video. Everything was initially deleted, but ends up finding a video and realizes it was Byung-sok who hit Soha and was the one responsible. So he goes to Byung-sok and is like, how could you fucking do this? He wants to beat him up. And you can tell Byung-sok's already like upset and angry and doesn't really know what the hell is going on. And he's like, I don't know why. I don't know why I did it. And it just kind of leaves off right there. And he's like, just get away from me and get out of my sight. It's not that Sion forgives him. It seems like Byung-sok's already upset and there's a lot of self-hatred there as it is. So it doesn't even matter. At the end of the series, you see that Byung-sok is sent away to either Paris or the Philippines, one of them, to study. And he's like, I don't even care what you do. Just get the hell out of here. The father is super upset with him and angry. And he's like, you've disgraced me enough. Get out of my sight. And then because of the political affiliations that his father has, Sion is expelled from his schools and isn't able to get into any other school in Seoul. So he ends up going to a different school, and this is where the season 2 starts. So I'm super excited for that too. I'm really hoping Soha makes a reappearance because it would be amazing. When he's leaving, Byung-suk tells Yoongi, well, if you weren't there, maybe we wouldn't have had this issue. So at the end of the day, it might just be your fault. And seeing this and hearing this, she still feels a lot of self-hatred. So she goes away. In the epilogue, you see that Seon mentions that she comes and visits Seon as Soha and his grandmother every few days or so, but she's not really there anymore. And the gang is basically dispersed. And that's where the series ends. It's fucking awful. I hate the way they end it. I'm sorry, it's awful. I hate that they end it like that. I wish I knew, like, it's better that he's not at least dead, but at the same time, like, you cannot leave it like that. It came out in 2022, and for 3 years we have no update, and honestly, I'm gonna be so angry if there isn't an update on season 2. I need him to be alive, okay? I need him to be alive. I knew before I even started the series that something was going to happen to Soha because they mentioned, like, it was such a big deal. But even then, it was still really heartbreaking to watch that happen for someone who is such a big fighter and full of life. It's like, it's awful. It's awful to watch. And at the end of the series, you see Seon's father saying, hey, you did nothing wrong. And you can tell Seon feels awful because he feels like it's also his fault as well. And he's back to his normal self, as you see in the beginning of the series. So he's full of rage again. And I don't blame him. Like, the man's been through some things. There's it. That's your quick recap of the series. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like videos like this. Please let me know in the comments below if I missed anything or if I was wrong or in any other way. I hope you enjoyed the series. If you haven't watched it, I would so recommend watching it because it is so good and like highest recommendations. It's amazing and it's a really short series. It's 8 episodes, like 45 to 50 minutes long. You can watch it in one go. As long as you have a lot of chips and popcorn involved, obviously. Thank you so much. My name is Vivi.